Hello and namaste, my beautiful friends. I am Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology. Welcome to your planetary energy forecast for the week of April the 14th, 2025. Now, we launch this new week still with a little bit of full moon energy pulsing away from the weekend. We also are in the new energy of Venus having paused in the sky and beginning to move forward. Both of these are pretty potent energies. The full moon was in Libra, so a lot of relationship dynamics coming up. A lot of things you've reconsidered or rethought regarding what is important to you. There are also a lot, of course, financial things going on, and a lot of that energy continues through this week. Now, this week we begin to introduce a little bit of volatile energy into the month. Why? Well, because we have Chiron, the part of us that feels damaged or unacceptable, touching the sun in beautiful, powerful Aries. We have also co-present with those two forces, Eris, E-R-I-S, the goddess of discord and the sister of Mars. Now, this is an argumentative energy. It could definitely be something that brings up the shadow of Aries, the immaturity, the yelling, the anger, the overreactions, right? That could be coming up with this. You know, keep in mind that the root of anger is really fear of not being able to control a situation, fear of what's going to happen, fear of being unable to respond or not feeling capable, right? So kind of be whole within yourself, really be in that state this week where you realize that you have met challenges throughout your life, and those challenges have given you certain talents and strengths, and you can use those to apply to any situation you find yourself in. Really, really know in your heart that you are never given more than you can handle. So, but really feel into this. This is right around 24, 25 of Aries. So if you know your chart, that might be useful. But again, people might be a little volatile, a little bit more argumentative. And so just, take a breath before you speak, right? On April 15th, we have the exact meeting between the Sun and Eris. I'm also keeping an eye on that, okay? So they'll move past Chiron, but there'll be that exact meeting, and that is a little bit of an erratic edge. We also have, on the 15th, Mars going to the final degree of Cancer, 29 degrees, the completion degree. Now, this will be the third time that it has shown up there, but when it arrives, it begins to trine Mercury in Pisces and send beautiful energy to Neptune and Aries. And so Mars, very supported in its very last degree of Cancer, and the next day on the 18th, when it moves into Leo, it's sending beautiful energy to Neptune. This could be very inspiring. This could be very generative as far as ideas or ways to step forward. Fire signs, you are absolutely going to be feeling this lovely energy. You're definitely going to be feeling more like yourself. More and more that we get some of those important planets out of Pisces and into Aries. Now, on the 16th, Mercury slips into Aries, and we do need to keep an eye on that because Mercury in Aries can be a little bit forward. It can not have the filter, that kind of like, oh, did I say that out loud? It can be a little hostile, have a little edge to it. And, the shadow of Aries is immaturity. So when the mind is perhaps in this, the potential is there to not make the best decisions or to make rash decisions. So slow things down if you can. On the 17th, it will meet Neptune. So this will be the first meeting we will explore. What is it like when Mercury, the mind, meets Neptune in Aries? Completely different experience than when it was in watery Pisces. In Aries, it's going to have more of an edge. It's going to have more drive, more will, maybe a little bit more argumentative, maybe a little bit more ready to scrap or fight. This is, a position of independence and enthusiasm. So keep an eye and see how that kind of evolves for you. Now, on the 18th, when Mars goes back into Leo, we're going to take a look at that. Not only is it a dramatic shift from, oh, so touchy-feely Cancer, emotional, protective, indecisive Cancer, right? Oh, the tenderness. Now, Mars puts on his crown and he takes the, scepter, and he wants to rule his kingdom. This is the third pass of this. And so you may feel somewhere where you're finally ready to step up to the podium, step into the spotlight, direct others, take the lead. And so enjoy that beautiful energy. I'm also really watching because it will begin to pick up its final opposition with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. Now, you'll remember that Mars and Pluto got into this little tug of war first week of November and first week of January, and this is the third time. This is a little bit further along, right? Those other ones, they happened in late Capricorn and Cancer, and then they happened in very early Leo, very early Aquarius. So now it's going to be around the 3-degree mark where they will stand in this argumentative position again. At the same time they do that, they will both come into a square, a difficult angle with the sun in Taurus. Now, this is more of a story for the end of the month. This is a next week after planetary energy forecast discussion. But if you had any events going down that first week of November or that first week of January, well, I want you to go ahead and put your astrological caution flag up. So you may already have it up because of the Eris Sun Chiron at the beginning of the month or the beginning of the week. But then at the end of the week, symbolically, when it moves into Leo, see if all of a sudden there's any kind of argument or power struggle. We're definitely just going to be more cautious with that. On the 19th, the sun moves into Taurus. Happy solar return to my fellow bulls. Things like get a little bit more touchy-feely, a little bit more earth-based. We're a little bit more, we want to slow down a little bit. We want to enjoy life. But also, it turns the attention more to finances as well. So, major financial moves this whole month, major financial moves the potential this week as well. Especially because we still have Saturn making connections to Uranus and Taurus, and we still have this volatility of that Uranian energy introduced to the Saturnian force, right? The stable, the structure, connecting beautifully with the planet of change and revolution. So change is on the agenda for the whole month. One more thing I do want to point out, on the 19th, Mars in Leo trining to Neptune and Aries. I love this. This is very inspired. This is the first time they will meet in this configuration. Fire signs again, feeling good. And then on the 20th, Venus will begin to sextile to Uranus and Taurus. Now remember, Venus is oh so close to consequential Saturn and the North Node at this time. So these are big, big decisions that we're making right now as far as love, as far as money. And again, if you're looking for something new, if you're looking for a change, if you're looking for a miracle, these connections of these important planets over to Uranus, well, that really can give us the opportunity for anything to happen. Keep in mind also that there's kind of a magic synchronicity, especially with Venus in Pisces, where she loves to be, connecting with Uranus in Taurus. One of her favorite signs is Taurus. So I am really loving this little aspect. I think that this could be a real beneficial blessing, especially consider some of the other stressful aspects we have this week. Another thing to point out as we finish the week, we have a lovely beam of energy between Mercury in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius. Very idea-oriented, very future-oriented. Could have something to do with technology, could have something to do with groups of people. But if you get an insight or a download, be really thinking long-term, big picture with it, especially as we get to the end of the week. All right. Well, I hope you found this useful and helpful. I appreciate your patience. I would love for you to comment below. And be sure to stick around. I've got a Celtic Cross on the movement of Mars into Leo. And then we'll finish up our reading. All right. Have a great week. Hello, beautiful friends. Namaste. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology, and we are moving on to the Celtic Cross for the week of April the 14th, 2025. And this week, Mars, still in its retrograde shadow, but it is moving forward out of Cancer and into Leo. You know, Cancer is just a hard place for Mars to be in. It's not an assertive energy like Mars wants to be. It's not a It's not as comfortable fighting. It doesn't fight fair, that's for sure. It just wants to, the energy of Cancer is more about home and love and support and nurturance. And Mars is just not comfortable there. So moving into the leadership of Leo, I think is a really nice placement for it. And let's feel what that message is for the week. Reading for the collective, how best to take advantage of the beautiful Mars and Leo that's coming. It's also trining to Neptune at the same time that we're getting kind of big ideas from Mercury sextile to Pluto. All right, so here's you. There's something about this week where you're really feeling about family. Like maybe you need to step up and lead the family. Maybe you need to be more assertive and directive in achieving a good environment. Because this Four of Wands might not just be like, picket fence 2.5 kids. It could be like, I want a good work team. I just want the right environment in which to thrive. And what's crossing you is temperance. You got to go about it in a way that's balanced, that's reasonable. Okay, there's reasonable assertion of will. There's reasonable ways to approach taking hold of the throne, so to speak. Now, in the past, the Tower, this whole Mars retrograde cycle has broken something apart. It could have been in the Cancer area of life. It could have been in the Leo area of life. But something was removed, changed suddenly. We're still dealing with the shock and awe of it all. Future, Three of Cups. You're going to be getting some good news here. This Mars and Leo is actually going to, deliver to you something positive, something that's fulfilling. Crowning thoughts, yeah, you're starting to see the karmic patterns develop. You're starting to see the aha moments are coming through. And subconscious, the Sun. You need to find a way to shine, to be yourself, to move forward. Commercial interruption, my neighbor stopped by. So back at it. Okay, so the subconscious is that Sun, right? This is the ruler of Leo, the Sun. So you know who you are. You know how to bring your power well into the world. So this is a part of this whole process. Now the advice is the Star. The Star is what comes after the Tower, right? Yeah, the pieces fell apart. So what new thing do you develop from the pieces? What new thing do you create? What alchemy comes from taking what fell apart and create the creation of something new? Also, outside influence, Knight of Pentacles. There's going to be a new goal that comes out of this, something that you really want to achieve, that you're going to want to go for. So go for it. What do you want to happen? Well, I don't know. You're trying to still not, worry about the Tower moment. You're trying not to mourn what you've lost, all the work, all the effort, all the things that seem to be dissolving. So do have that attitude of gratitude, the focus on the positive and the outcome, the Hermit. Very interesting, because the Hermit would not be, I would think, Leo energy, right? Mars in Leo. But here's the thing with the Hermit. The Hermit spends quality time alone in introspection, in prayer, in contemplation, so that you can take wise action, wise measured action, right? That is wisdom. So even though Mars is moving into Leo, we have to integrate all the things we've learned over these past several months and integrate them into what it is that we're trying to achieve. Now the reader's fan, a little extra here. Queen of Wands, you've been working on this, right? I mean, you've been doing the work. Two of Wands. And you may have to make a decision as you're moving forward here, which way to go. But remember, being indecisive doesn't help. Forward movement. Queen of Cups, don't discount your intuition in all of this. Two more cards coming up. Nor your creative powers, the Empress, and your abundance, your wealth, the wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience, 10 of Pentacles. Start viewing yourself as an amazing, gifted, useful commodity. And not in a capitalism sense, but in a all the gifts and talents that you have and that you are, that's how you lead, right? Leadership in a Leo sense is to become the king or the queen. It's not so much always telling other people what to do. Sometimes it's just by being yourself, you show them. Okay? Show them what's possible. Show them how, it's like be the change, right? All right. Well, I hope this was useful and helpful. And thanks again for understanding my commercial interruption and not wanting to start again so that the cards could just speak. I wish you a marvelous week. Talk soon. Ciao.